Hey everybody, thanks for tuning back into Otram's YouTube channel. Today we're going to do a front downpipe catalytic converter on an 80 series Land Cruiser. And as you can see by the grinder sitting on the lift behind me, this is going to be a fun one. But before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out our new channel membership page that gives you early access to the videos before they come out to the general public, and also gives you access to live chats. So let me move you underneath the truck and we'll get started. So the first thing we need to undo are the 4 bolts holding the downpipe, or the 4 nuts rather, holding the downpipe to the manifold. I've already had these soaking with Freol, so hopefully that will help. I find it's easiest to use like a small impact. This one's a 1/2-inch drive, 12 volt, to knock these loose. And that seems like it's not gonna cut it on this guy. Let me try another one. There we go. There's one. I found when I try to do this with just a ratchet, you end up just twisting the stud off. A lot of times the impact seems to help in getting these loose. Okay, I guess we just needed a little gusto to start us out. And I'm gonna have to get an extension to get this other one. Let me get a bigger wrench. Yeah, bigger impact. There we go. That's all we needed. So yeah, now we're loose of the manifold. I can't get a super good view of it, but right here, there is a bracket on the side of the bell housing that loops up, and normally there would be a clamp around it and the downpipe that you're going to need to remove. This one has rusted off, so luckily we don't have to mess with it. A lot of times when I'm doing a MagnaFlow downpipe, which is what we're doing today, I will go ahead and take this bracket off because it seems to rattle and not want to sit right with the MagnaFlows. Which it is just 2 14-millimeter bolts holding it to the side of the bell housing. I'm going to go ahead and pop this one off because I can't get a good camera view in there to show you, and we'll be right back. So next up, we're going to unplug the oxygen sensor, which the previous mechanic that was in here butchered this. They pulled the wire out of the back of the body side of the harness, so they decided to just twist and electrical tape a piece of jumper wire on. But we'll unplug those. Usually this will be clipped up to the side of the body mount here. This one, the clip's long since broken. I don't know if you can get a good view. They just kind of skinned the wiring back and wrapped another piece of wire around it. It's like, no wonder the O2 sensor wasn't working. And then normally you would undo 2 nuts right here to take the oxygen sensor out. But again, this person was a butcher and they just welded a universal oxygen sensor in, which is part of the reason we're replacing the downpipe. So we're just going to leave this alone, and it's going to get a new O2 sensor, new downpipe, and I'm going to have to repin the harness up here. So then we can come back to where the downpipe comes back and meets the rear cat, and you're going to need to undo the 2 bolts right here. On almost every 80 series, these are going to be super crunchy. So we're going to take a grinder and a cutoff wheel and just skim. We'll put the cutoff wheel right against the flange Actually, I'm going to do it on this side so that if I hit the flange, it doesn't matter. Forgot I had the GoPro here with the screen protector on it, so you guys get to see me cut this off anyway. Okay, so we've got the head of the bolt shaved off here, and our bolt is still stuck in here with corrosion. You could probably jerk and wiggle this all around. I'm just gonna take an air hammer and blip it out of there real quick. That really doesn't want to come out of there. Whew. There we go. There we go, we're finally loose. Usually, they aren't that bad. Like I said, the other side, once I skimmed the head off, popped right out. They just get so rusted up in these holes that the bolts don't want to come through. So now, it's just a matter of wiggling all of this out. I don't know that I can get you a good shot. There's a brake bracket on the frame rail right in front of the downpipe. A lot of times it makes it easier if you unbolt that and slide the brake lines out of the way. But let me see what I can do. I'm not sure what I'm hung on. I may have hosed myself doing this on the 4-post lift because I can't take the tire off to get better clearance, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to torque it down on the rack. So let me mess with this off camera and see if I can get it wiggled out of here. Okay, so I got the downpipe off. I was hanging up on this forward stud here. And once you've got it off and get the gaskets out, you're going to want to pay real close attention to these manifolds because they're going to have a lot of crap stuck, you know, and rust and everything stuck here in where the gasket goes. You'll have an old baked on gasket, and you're just going to want to sit here for way longer than it seems appropriate and scrape and pick all of this old loose stuff out, because if you don't spend the time doing it now, you're going to be back in here again replacing gaskets when they burn out because they weren't seated. So I'm going to keep on scraping in here. I'm going to have to turn the camera off because you guys are actually in my way of being able to actually scrape this well. But we'll get this all cleaned up and then we'll bring it back and put the manifolds in. So, couldn't get a really good view, but we've got the old downpipe out. And then we're gonna take our new downpipe and we're gonna kinda just snake it. Up here, in between the firewall and that brake line. There we go. Now we're in through the gap, and I did not put the gaskets on the top yet. because as we slide this through, it's real easy for them to fall off. So I left those loose, and then we'll have to go up top, put the gaskets on, and then put everything back down here. So once you've fished the cat in over the frame rail, you're not going to be able to get it under the manifolds. So what you want to do is switch it to the top of the back cat, and that'll give you enough room to be able to maneuver it and get it under the manifolds at the front. And then I'll switch you around and we'll do the front piece. So we've got our new gaskets ready to go up on top of the manifold. And I like to use some of this muffler paste on both sides of the downpipe gasket, because usually it's so corroded and rusted up there that trying to get just the gaskets alone to seal doesn't really work all the time. So I'll put a healthy coat of this muffler cement. I'll paint it on both sides of the gasket to try to give me a little bit better chance of sealing. Because after 30 years of corrosion, that sealing surface is not pristine anymore. And once I get this stuff on there, I'll give you a view of it. So, you know, I've just got a good thick coating on both sides of the gasket. And then I'll just reach in through the wheel well. Actually, I'm going to reach in through the top and do this. Forgot I had the hood open still. And there's a metal centering ring on the downpipe that you just want to make sure that you press the gasket down over. It's easy to not get them fully on that ring. And then when you go to tighten everything up, it'll pinch and it'll tear the gasket. And then you get to do this all again. Which seems like half the times I do this, I end up pinching the gasket. So I try to be real careful about getting it pressed on as square as I can to that centering flange on the downpipe. Okay, so I've got both gaskets up there. So now I can carefully slide this guy on and start a couple of the nuts. So that we don't pop loose. And then I'm going to come back around behind you and realign, make sure I can pop my cat back under the rear cat so I'm not binding up when I'm putting all this back together. Get my other two nuts started. And then I'm going to take a peek like through the side from the wheel well just to make sure my gaskets didn't move while I was putting everything together. And it looks like we're good there. So I can start snugging these up. And when you're tightening these, you're going to want to kind of alternate back and forth, because again, it's real easy to pinch those gaskets crooked. You'd think something that's holding up to exhaust heat would be more robust. But these are not. And I should point out, like the MagnaFlow downpipe comes with gaskets. We never use them. We've never had them seal well, so we use the factory Toyota gaskets here. They are cheap insurance that you're going to have a better chance of getting these to seal. And I'll continue snugging these up, and then I'll bring it back with a torque wrench in just a minute. Okay, so I've got those snugged up, and we're going to torque them to 46 foot-pounds. Before I came back on here to torque them, I looked through the side of the wheel well one last time to make sure that everything was going together straight and that I didn't have anything pinched. And then we can give these the final torque. And we'll be done with the hard part. And I'll generally go over these twice just to make sure they didn't loosen up as the gaskets compressed. And it's a good idea to torque these again after you've heat cycled the engine a couple of times. There we go. Those are all torqued. Let me move the camera and we'll do the back set. So now that we've got the front all torqued up, we can go ahead and put our big gasket back here. And it's just a matter of getting it wiggled up in there because there's a center retainer ring on the back cat. She's got to get it squished up in there and then get all this lined back up and put some new bolts in. Like so. And then these I don't really torque, I just tighten them up. And then same thing as the front pipes. You want to bounce back and forth side to side to make sure that you're snugging that gasket down evenly. There we go. Those are... Unfortunately, with this being on the 4-post, it's kind of hard to get you a good angle. But right up here are 2 studs for the oxygen sensor to go back on. And I'm going to put some anti-seize on these before I put the oxygen sensor on. Especially on these MagnaFlow downpipes, the downpipe itself is stainless, but these studs are not, and they appear to be welded in. And we've had a lot of instances where the downpipe's in great shape, but you go to change the O2 sensor and it breaks the studs off. So I like to put a little going brain dead today, little anti-seize on those first. And then we'll put the gasket on. And then we've got our new correct oxygen sensor. I'll fish that guy up in there. Get that down. And then these aren't factory. I have a whole bunch of them. They're all metal lock nuts that are copper coated, and they seem to hold up a little bit better and not bind as bad here. So I'm going to put these on. And I don't know why MagnaFlow decided to make the studs for these 300 feet long, but we'll tighten these up. And it may sound like I'm bashing MagnaFlow. I'm not. They're actually really good downpipes. We've had a lot of luck, great luck with them. Just some of the design choices I'm not so certain about. There we go, those are both snug. And then we can take our connector and connect it back where we unplugged it earlier. And I went ahead and pinned a new wire into the plug where it was missing, where it had been ripped out and spliced, and then just heat shrink spliced it back in. So yeah, there we go underneath. So that's this truck all put back together. I'm gonna wait for that sealer to dry on the downpipe and then take it for a test drive and heat cycle it a few times, and then retorque everything, because sometimes after you've driven it and heat cycled it, the gaskets compress some and the bolts come loose. So we'll retighten everything and this truck will be good to go. And hopefully the rewire on the O2 sensor helps get everything back to normal. It can't have been helping it run right the way the wires are just twisted together. So I hope you found that useful. If you did, please like and subscribe, and please check out our membership page. It really helps support the channel and is much appreciated. I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks.